Well, hello, boys and girls. It's When I Feel Like a Clock. I'm Pearl of Wisdom. You're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom. And as you can tell on the screen, we have ourselves a bit of a guest today, don't we? We have the GOAT, John from Off the Wall Hockey, who is up late with me last night doing lives.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It was so much fun, though. He was doing. He did what, the Vegas game, and what was the other game you did? What was the earlier game again?
Philly and Buffalo.
Oh, I should know that. That's why I just tried to put that out of my memory that game actually happened. What an absolute atrocity. But we'll get into that because we're going to be reviewing all the games last night and talking
hmm
about the teams that played the games last night and some interesting things that are going on with each of them. That's what we do here at the Pearl of Wisdom show. But yeah, he was doing that, and then I do a watch all the games kind of conversation going on with whoever wants to be in, and I talk about all the games, and we talk about everything that's going on in the league, in my life. So if you ever want to join that, I would highly recommend you do because the frolic is endless. So John,
Yep.
this is our first time doing this show specifically together. We're sure it won't be our last. You have your show you do on Friday nights with Steele, right?
Yes, the Off the Wall Hockey Show Friday nights, 8 p.m. Those are always a lot of fun for sure.
Right. And yeah, I watch them. They're really good. This is all part of the Steel Flyers Network, as you can see in our background here. Steel Flyers All Sports Network. We do hockey, but there's going to be baseball, football, everything. Everybody will be doing something very similar to this, plus our own videos. Oh, I'll tell you, it's going to be absolutely incredible. But
hmm
last time Steele and I did this, we were going to do all the games from last night, and then we were going to do a preview of the games from the ones coming up, and we never got to the preview because we talked so much. Time just flies. So we better get at this right now. Um,
Yeah.
let's go to the games from last night. I'm going to start. Well, we might as well start with one of the ones I think we both bet on this game, didn't we? We'll start in the morning game with the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings. Did you happen to watch that game?
Yeah, I watched that whole game. That was actually an exciting game. I know that matchup. When you look at it on paper, Blue Jackets aren't the most exciting team. Red Wings weren't very good last year, and people probably kind of scoffed at that matchup. But it was a
Hmm.
really, really exciting game. It ended up 3-2, and Detroit almost made that comeback at the end. And Blue Jackets came out on top though, and we got the under, which was fantastic. So I thought that was a really fun game to watch.
It was a fun game to watch. Because like you said, Columbus Blue Jackets style doesn't generally lend to the most exciting game in the world.
hmm
And they did try to play that game, but you got to give it to Detroit this year. I'm kind of wondering a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean Detroit's looked a lot better. They've looked a lot better. Bobby Ryan had another couple goals in yesterday's game, and Detroit's 1-2 to start the season. They were able to pull out one win over Carolina, and I'm definitely, I expect the Red Wings to win more games this year than they did last season. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's really nice to see Bobby Ryan on the horse right away this year after going, taking a little time out for his own personal life and coming back in full force. 2 goals already. I think he had 2 goals in that game. What am I talking about? 3 goals already
Yeah.
in this, and he's looked excellent. He's looked like he's had a lot of fire under him. There's a couple guys that with Columbus that I watched that are really interesting. I was kind of wondering what Grigorenko would do after starting his career in Buffalo, heading over to the
hmm
KHL, and then Kekalainen. He's thought of as the Wayne Gretzky of European scouting, brings him back. And now they're playing him on the wing on the top 2 lines. Did you happen to notice him in that game?
Yeah, he picked up an assist on the Pierre-Luc Dubois goal, which was the third goal for Columbus, and I thought he played fairly well. That was a move that I was kind of skeptical of, because obviously things didn't work out with Grigorenko in Buffalo. Not that that's a place where a lot of things work out, but once he went back over to Europe, I was like, all right, he's probably done. He'll just play overseas. And when they brought him back, it was kind of a little bit of a head scratching move, but I feel like he's actually played really, pretty well to start this season, and that might end up being a solid addition for that team. Somebody that you can kind of move up and down the lineup depending on how guys are playing and where you need him. We know he can play center if they need him to. They've moved him onto the wing here to start. It seems to be working out. It's only been 3 games, but it seems to be working out better than I thought it was going to.
I didn't know, but as soon as Kekalainen decides to somebody that is good, he usually is. So I was just giving Kekalainen the benefit of the doubt, and I just like to say Kekalainen, so that's why I did that. But
yeah,
another person that stood out to me and has from the playoffs and just seems to be getting better and better is Alexander Tessier.
Yeah, absolutely. He scored. He's got 2 goals on the year already, and he's a guy that is going to play a crucial role in the top 6 for the Blue Jackets here going forward. Remember, he kind of started to break out a little bit a couple playoffs ago when Columbus pulled the big upset over Tampa Bay back in 2019. That was the first time people really started to notice Texier. And then last season wasn't that great of a year for him. He was injured, and he didn't have a huge year last year. But I think now, if he's healthy, he's going to really have that breakout season. And I think a lot of people are going to know Alexander Texier by the end of this year.
I think so too. I've been pretty bullish on him for a while, it's really showing, or at least earlier on, with the games they played so far. I'm wanting to look for some Detroit, but really it's the Bobby Ryan show. Zadina has looked really good to start the year, which is Zadina. I think it's Zadina. But after picking them first ahead of Hughes, I think I don't know. In Detroit, they don't really ever get worried. They just let people go and grow at their own pace. But it certainly must be a little bit of a breath of fresh air for Detroit to see Zadina starting to pick it up and look like he's going to be a player in the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just been a little bit slow developing for what they were hoping for. Obviously, they took him pretty high in that draft a couple years ago, and it was kind of slow going out of the gate. He didn't jump right into the NHL like some people really expected him to, but he's still young. He's really young, and I think the art of development is something that has been lost a little bit in the NHL, but not with Detroit. Detroit's a team that has never really rushed young players, and they kind of, they make sure that they wait until they're NHL ready. And now it looks like he's certainly ready to be a everyday player in the league. And we'll see if he ever lives up to that, top 10 draft pick status. But he certainly has the potential to, and we're starting to see him take those steps forward to getting there.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's going to live pretty close to up there, at least be a second line winger. From what I'm seeing of him now, he's getting stronger. He's got some pretty good legs. I'll point out one more thing, and then we'll go. I don't think we can talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. I haven't got your lean on this, but we'll talk a little bit about the Dubois situation before we head off to the next game. But also, don't want to talk much about this, but Hronek played 25 minutes in that game. And
yes.
We both have talked highly of Hronek. I know you really love the guy. I certainly do, too. And they obviously do. 25 minutes, eh?
Yeah, I mean, he's Detroit's number 1 defenseman. He's been He's been good ever since they've called him up to the NHL. Now, obviously, stats wise, it's hard when you're on the Red Wings to put up a good plus minus or to really light things up on the scoreboard because especially last year Detroit had such a horrible season that nobody's numbers were
Mhm.
good. But Hronek's a guy that I look at and I see a legitimate number one defenseman in. He's got a two-way game. He can move the puck, he can skate. He can be solid defensively. He's not that one trick, just offensive guy. And he's a guy that I think as the Red Wings get better, you're going to see his numbers get better and you're going to see his overall game continue to improve. And I think he's going to be the number one guy for the Red Wings for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'm just going to make sure that we're hearing everything all right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I haven't got your take on this. I don't know why we haven't talked much about it because we talk a lot, but I'm a big. I wouldn't say I'm a Tortorella fan, but a supporter and thinking that I believe he's the best coach in the NHL. A lot of people will disagree with me, but even I was taken aback a bit by Tortorella coming out in the media about this whole situation with Dubois. What's your take on that?
It's just not a good situation. The whole thing's kind of become a soap opera. This is something that I think most teams you would want to keep this in the room, and this isn't something that should be playing out publicly. And the way that, it's gone down with, him signing his 2-year deal and then immediately asking for a trade, then there's all the speculation about why he wants a trade. The Blue Jackets basically just come out and say, yeah, he wants out, which it's not very often you see a team just throw that out in the public air like that. Then Tortorella kind of throws him under the bus a little bit, and it's not a good situation. It's definitely something that could easily become a distraction. And that's what you're trying to avoid, especially in a shortened season where, every game means so much. Every game is within the division, and you don't have time to have a slow start and then try and dig yourself out of it at the end. Um, so I thought, the whole situation is just not a good one for anyone involved. Whatever Dubois' reasoning is, the thing that I've heard the most is that it's has to do with him just wanting a bigger market and a bigger stage to play on. But I mean, you can get that when you become an unrestricted free agent, and you can go and sign anywhere you want, like Tavares did when he went to Toronto, and I feel it's not great when your top line young center already wants out, and it's not great when your coach is kind of talking about it all in the media and the team's admitting that he doesn't want to be there, and it just sets up a bad situation of locker room issues between different guys and maybe a rift between the coaches and the players, and it's just not the way that you want to start your season. And I think that's where the leadership in that Columbus locker room has got to step up, whether it's Nick Foligno or Seth Jones or Cam Atkinson, guys that have been there for a while now, and guys who are leaders on that team. They've got to pull Dubois aside and say, listen, whether you get traded or not, right now you're a Columbus Blue Jacket, so you need to go out there and make sure that you're, playing every game and trying to do your best for us to win every single game. And I think that leadership group has got to try and do something, talk to Tortorella and be like, why is this out in the media like that? That's not the way to go about this. This is something I would have liked to seen kept in-house in that locker room and not played out so publicly.
Yeah, I have to agree. However, Tortorella is not what you call conventional in any way. So
that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm always trying to figure out where he might be going here. And if I go with the narrative, he came right out and said he was going to be open. They were going to be open about it in the dressing room, and they were going to basically, not hide it or anything like that. And they were going to talk about it. And he got the indication that for whatever reason, Dubois wasn't saying everything that needs to be said. And so his way of trying to maybe get this out a little more, or maybe persuade him to be a little bit more honest about what he's feeling, is to go out in the media and say something like he's saying right now. And in some way, he must feel that it is going to be a benefit for the team that this type of work, this is like a psychological warfare almost that he's doing. And Tortorella has kind of been known for this too. He doesn't back down from what he believes and will use every angle he can to get what he feels needs to be done in there. I think this also it causes a controversy within the team that gives them something to get over. You know what I mean? Like great coaches tend to do this. Mike Keenan was big on this. He would actually create controversies on purpose, so in order to get people over the hump and be able to learn how to react to things. Mike Keenan's favorite saying was, "It doesn't matter what happens to you; it only matters what you do to handle it, or how you react to it." Something like that. I probably just butchered the quote, but it's something of that nature. So, and in that way, I'm not going to say it's not going to work, because Tortorella has made me. I have basically said, like, what's the word I'm looking for? He has gone over and above over and over and over again. Whenever I think that the Jackets or whatever he is, a team that's down and out or he can't handle it, he ends up turning around. So more than likely he will, and he does it very unconventionally. The only time it didn't work was in Vancouver.
Yeah, that was a big flop, and I think like just his style in general is it's risky, and the whole approach that he's taking to this is risky. It's either going to work really well, and the team is going to face that adversity and get over it, and it's going to make them a better team, or they're going to completely fall flat on their face, and it could go the other way. And, it's up to the players in that locker room to determine which way it's going to go.
Yeah, and it's possible he sees it as it's only going to be one of those two ways anyways. And if that's the case, I'm going to go for what I think I know will work. And if it doesn't, well, it was never going to work anyways. There was only so it's possible that he's doing it that way. Okay, now we go to the second game in that morning, and I think we both had the under on this game.
Yes.
Your Boston Bruins versus the New York Islanders. Wow, what a game that was. I'll let you talk a lot about this. Boston did not look bad in that game.
No, they just can't score. Their offense is non-existent. They do not have a 5-on-5 goal yet in this season. They've played 3 games now. All their goals have come on special teams, and yesterday they didn't even score a goal. I don't know how much more you can ask out of your goaltender. Whether it's Halak or Rask was in yesterday. The goaltenders are playing great. They're keeping, pretty much everything they possibly can out of the net. The defense, there's been so much questions about Boston's defense with them losing Krug, losing Chara, a lot of young guys in that lineup defensively. The defense has been outstanding. They've hardly given up any goals. The issue here is they cannot put the puck in the net, and they lost 1-0 yesterday. No goals until the third period, and it wasn't really until the end of the third period when Pajot scored for the Isles. And that's the biggest thing I've taken away from this first week for the Boston Bruins is that they have got to find a way to start scoring some goals, or they're going to be in trouble this year.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really light it up a lot last year, too. They were, I bet a lot of unders on the Bruins last year as well. They play a strong defense. One thing I will say on the plus is I think the defense looks pretty darn good, although it sounds like Grzelcyk is injured now. I just noticed on the injury reports. He only played 13 minutes, but overall, I've been actually fairly happy with their defense considering Krug being out and losing Krug and so on. Even a guy that you kind of had your reservations about coming in, and Zaboral.
Yeah, Zaboros looked really good. He's been very, very solid on the back end. He's played special teams. He's kind of he was not a guy that I was a fan of, and I did not think he was going to be a regular NHLer based on what I saw in the AHL. And he's kind of, at least to start this season, he's making me eat my words a little bit. He has looked very, very solid.
Yeah, he has looked solid. He played a minute and a half of power play time. I didn't see that coming.
Yes.
Yeah, last night, and then Lauzon playing 22 minutes last night, and he looked. I've always liked Lauzon. I've liked his progression, so I'm not too surprised about that. 7 hits, big game for Lauzon. Like you said, the offense is the worrisome thing, and with Pasternak out, guys like, and we've talked about this. I've talked about this over and over and over again. Louis DeBrusk? That's his father. Jake
Jake.
DeBrusk.
It's not been a good start to the season for Jake DeBrusk. He looked better. He looked better yesterday. He was more involved in the game, but the first two games he was invisible out there, and it's not been a good start to the year. And this was supposed to be a big year for DeBrusk. He was a restricted free agent this past offseason. They gave him a 2-year bridge deal. He was supposed to, start showing those signs and taking that next step to be a true top six guy. He's been playing on the second line pretty much his entire career. And last year wasn't a great year for him. He was supposed to, have a bounce back season this year. And so far, it's not been. He cannot get on the score sheet. And DeBrusk is, yeah, you got to start wondering about. I mean, it's a little early, but if this continues and we're, halfway through the season, and he still, is struggling offensively, you got to start thinking about a trade here because the patience with Jake DeBrusk is starting to run out a little bit. He's just not been good enough offensively.
Yeah, totally agree. I've been talking about him for a while. He needs to put more second efforts out there from what I see from Jake
Mm-hmm.
DeBrusk. He peels away from the play far too quick a lot of the time and puts himself out of position. He's got the only way DeBrusk is going to score is he's got to cut to the net with the puck, and he just doesn't do that
Yep.
anywhere near enough. He seems to his and then that has affected his confidence, obviously, that he's not putting up points and stuff. And you think with his father being in the NHL, they'd be able to get his head going in the right direction. But so far, it just has not been good. And when you take into consideration, and we don't want to bemoan this point, but you can't ignore it either, he was taken instead of Barzal and Connor, right? And
Yep.
and he really he knows that. It's not like
Yeah.
he doesn't know that, and I imagine it probably does affect his game. But if Grzelcyk is injured, now you're looking at who's going to move the puck out of the zone in here in Boston. That's your biggest real issue, and I think what I saw last night might have been the maybe the more of the reason why they're having a difficult time getting some goals on the board is they don't have guys that now that Krug is gone, they don't have a guy that you can go to get that puck out of the zone and play an offensive style game every night, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with the loss of Torrey Krug is just that offensive playmaker defenseman that really pushes the play, that moves the puck up quickly and accurately, and they weren't going to have that is to that level without Krug to begin with, but Grzelcyk was the guy that was kind of taking over that role for Boston. And now he got injured in last night's game, and if he's out for any sort of significant time, they really don't have that at all on the back end.
No.
And you're looking at McAvoy, obviously is their number one guy, but it's going to be McAvoy, and that's it as far as any sort of offensive production from the defense. And John Moore would probably be the one coming into the lineup for the Bruins, and he's a depth guy who's not really going to push anything offensively. The scoring here is a problem, and I think it's going to be a problem until Pastrnak comes back. And even at that point, I still have reservations about this team offensively based on what we've seen in the first few games of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost took Boston to miss the playoffs, and watching them the last like their struggles here the last little while. It's early. I know. I don't want to go out and say that. I mean, Boston always has a tendency to turn things around, but I think it's probably the biggest hill they've had to climb in quite some time. With when Pasternak comes back and stuff, you'll probably that might be enough offense to get him over the hump. But honestly,
Yep.
the good thing was, and we'll talk a little bit about the Islanders here, is they really did outplay the Islanders last night. I don't. You want to talk about teams that haven't come out of the gate? The Islanders just got lucky last night, and but they have not come out of the gate very well themselves.
Yeah, no, they really haven't. Well, I- it's been an interesting start to the year. They haven't played great, but they've still got 2 wins, and yeah, I think at the end of the day, that win column is going to certainly be what's most important. But um, that game against the second game, obviously against the Rangers, was kind of a throwaway where they got absolutely blasted after blasting them opening night, and that was kind of interesting how it kind of completely flip flopped. We saw the same thing with the St. Louis and Colorado games when they played each other to start the season, where game one was one way and then game two was a complete flip flop, and it went completely the opposite way. And we saw that with the Islanders against the Rangers. Um, and then they come out and they did get outplayed in that game. Boston was a better team, particularly for the first two periods, like by a very decent amount. They were clearly the better
Mm-hmm.
team, but they just couldn't get the puck in the net. And the longer that went on, where the Bruins were outplaying them and outshooting them, but just couldn't score, you could see that the Islanders were kind of hanging around. And they're a team that if you let them hang around, they're going to end up burning you at the end. And I think we saw that quite a bit in the
Yeah.
playoffs last year for New York, where they would give up the first goal or two, and then over the course of the game they would hang around, and by the third period they'd come back and end up winning by like 1 or 2 goals. And I thought last night was very reminiscent of that for New York, where Boston was outplayed them for the first two periods, and the Islanders just hung around because Boston couldn't score, and then they get that goal from Pajot in the third, and that's it. Islanders step out of there with 2 points and a win. And I think they're a team that certainly still has another level to get to. They certainly can play better, but they got 2 wins in their first 3 games, so they got to be pretty happy with that.
Well, that's the thing with the Islanders, though, and Barry Trotz is my favorite coach. He's my man crush, but it's frustrating though, nonetheless. The Islanders probably win more games besides maybe the Columbus Blue Jackets, where they're outplayed and they still win the game.
Hmm.
It just seems like that system. Uh, it seems like that system is able to, even when they don't play it perfectly, it still can pull out a game. I don't know if it's an energy thing or what he does there, but the Islanders seem to be able to get past each games like that. And in the playoffs,
Hmm.
it was very evident. However, I do think with the Islanders that catches up to you in the playoffs. You can't. It seems like when the playoffs come, you get a team like Tampa Bay. You're not likely going to be able to get outplayed by Tampa Bay and win too often.
Yeah.
If you play against your average teams, you can get away with that. And you can say the same about the Columbus Blue Jackets this way too. Sooner or later you got to build a team that can win. Period. That
Hmm.
doesn't just win badly, but actually win. So we'll see how that goes out through the season. The Islanders, of course, lost Taves and Boychuk over the offseason, and
Yes.
Dobson has looked pretty darn good. I mean, for how young he is, he's still a very young defenseman. Did you happen to take some time to watch just specifically Dobson last night?
Yeah, I noticed him out there quite a bit. He was involved in the play. He was moving the puck. I was impressed with him. I like the way Dobson's played to start this season, and he played almost 18 minutes last night. He's on that third pair. He played more than Andy Green. Green's usually his defense partner. He didn't have any points, but he had a shot, he had a hit, and I just noticed him in the play. I thought he passed the puck well. And for a guy as young as he is, he got a good number of games at the NHL level last season, but then we didn't really see him in the postseason. He was kind of the odd man out in the playoffs for the Islanders. Now with Taves gone and with Boychuk retired, he stepped into a full-time spot in that lineup now. And I think he's looked good early on in this season, and I'm excited to see him progress as the year goes along because I think he has a lot of potential. There's a very high ceiling there with Noah Dobson. And, if he continues just developing and on the path that he's on, I think he's going to reach it.
Yeah, very impressive. And man, do they need it after losing a few defensemen in the summer. They don't really have like a super. The Islanders don't really have a super deep pool of prospects to go to either.
Certainly.
So having a guy like that pan out is pretty much essential for them. I find the Islanders are always just seem to be on the tipping point all the time. They also don't get injured all that much either. That's something that if they ever get a rash of it. Oh, well, actually, 2 years ago they got slammed pretty good, didn't they? Never mind. And they still happen to make it. But okay, let's go to the next game that I don't think you probably saw much of, but I certainly did. We'll talk about, and I'll talk more about it, almost about it, because I probably watched most of it myself.
Yep.
Toronto versus the Winnipeg Jets, the Maple Leafs versus the Winnipeg
Yes.
Jets. Okay, this was one of the picks I had wrong on my Patreon last night. Or yesterday, I was apprehensive about it after Lion A's out. And I don't know what happened with Lion A, but I'll tell you what, if he's not coming back soon, Winnipeg is in big, big trouble. Toronto was on 4 games in 6 nights last night. Should have been fairly tired. Winnipeg got run around like crazy. I'm just going to say it flat out. That Toronto team impressed me last night, man. For a team that's playing 4 games in 6 nights, they played strong, solid, did not look very tired at all. I guess that's a benefit of having young legs, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't get the chance to see any of this game, but I know Toronto got out. The first period was scoreless, and in the second, Toronto got the offense going, and they got out to a 2-0 lead, and really, really never looked back. They had to lead the rest of the game, and for sure, Winnipeg is. I mean, there's so many questions about Winnipeg's defense. We know that you look at that decor on paper and it's not very good, and the Winnipeg Jets need to score if they're going to win games, and not having Line is a huge blow out of that forward group. And I think, the one goal for the Jets last night came from Kyle Connor. Other than that, they couldn't get the puck in the net. And Toronto, really impressive performance for them. I think it's just overall been an impressive start to the season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're 3-1 out of the gate. They've played a lot already, and they're just chugging along. And they're playing well offensively. They've scored a good number of goals already. Defensively, and their goaltending has been, I think, a little bit better than some people would have expected this early in the season. And I've been impressed with Toronto. Winnipeg is I don't have them in the playoffs, and I think it's just because of the little things like this that's a game where it's only Winnipeg's second game of the season. They're much fresher, much more rested than the Maple Leafs. That's a game that if they're going to make the playoffs, they have to come out and win, and they didn't come out and win it. And I think that's just going to be those little things that hold the Winnipeg Jets back.
Yeah, for sure. There's this defense, like you mentioned, they had to play Logan Stanley last night, and Logan Stanley's not ready to play in the NHL.
Yep.
But when you have no choice, you have no choice because DeMello was out last night. That's the thing is they can't take one injury, and you're putting Sami Niku looked okay. Sami Niku just can't seem to take that next step. He's got to a certain point and almost plateaued already. And it seems, anyways, he may, jump up eventually here. But he looked okay. But they need more than okay from people like Sami Niku when guys like DeMello go down. And they certainly need more than putting Logan Stanley in when the rest of your defense is Boileau, Forbert, Pionk playing 23 minutes a night. I mean, that is a lot to ask for a guy like Pionk, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pionk's playing on the top pair. I mean, he's a top pair defenseman for them along with Josh Morrissey. And I'm sorry, nothing against Neil Pionk. I mean, he can be a very effective player in the proper role, but playing almost 24 minutes a night is not the proper role for Neil Pionk, and he's not a top pair defenseman. So the fact that they have to play him that much, I think, says a lot about the situation that Winnipeg's defense is in. And that's going to be something that holds them back greatly over the course of the year. I mean, Hellebuck played well. Hellebuck stopped 35 out of 37. Yeah. What more do you want out of your goaltender? No. And they still couldn't win the game.
Yeah, and especially especially against a tired team, no matter what that team is. The Jets were supposed to be fresh. And to get outshot 38-28, and I watched it. That shot total doesn't really tell the story. I'd like to see what their shot attempts were, because the Maple Leafs really just outplayed them all over the ice. A few names I'd like to give props to that I was a little about when the Leafs picked him up. Jimmy Vesey looked like he had new life there in Toronto. He looked really solid, playing maybe because he's just playing exactly what his role is right now. But he's got a good jump. He looked like he had a lot of value, and honestly, so far in his career, I haven't seen a lot of value out of VC.
No, I completely agree. VC's a guy that I really, up to this season, haven't really been a fan of, and don't think he's lived up to the hype at the NHL level, not even really remotely even close. But I think going to a team like the Maple Leafs, who already had so much offense there and so many star players up front, really kind of took that pressure off of VC and kind of allowed him to set back into a bottom six role where he can just be a secondary scorer and try and play his game. And I think that's a really good spot for a guy like Jimmy Vesey to be in, because when he came into the league, there was all of this hype around him. He won the Hobey Baker at Harvard as the best player in college hockey. He refused to play for the Nashville Predators and basically made this whole VC sweepstakes thing about it. And then he ends up going with the New York Rangers, and he was not good. He was not good with the Rangers, never became the player that he was supposed to. And they were kind of hoping that he would be a top six winger. And then he goes to Buffalo. And again, Buffalo is always looking for added scoring to go along with a guy like Jack Eichel. And VC couldn't really play a top role there either. So he never lived up to what he was supposed to be, and he had all of this pressure on him and all of these expectations that he never came close to reaching. And now he goes to a team like the Maple Leafs, who have, Matthews and Nylander and Tavares and Marner and Hyman and Kerfoot and like all these other offensive players, Mikheyev, like guys that take that spotlight away from Jimmy Vesey, and it lets Vesey kind of settle down into a lower role in the lineup, which I think he's much better suited for based on what we've seen from him at the NHL level.
Yeah, something to be said about going to a good team too, right? It certainly can boost that morale. Yeah, when he went to the Rangers, they were kind of in a rebuild. That he had a lot of pressure on him because he went into free agency and chose them, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So that didn't help. And then he goes into what would be probably a very caustic atmosphere in Buffalo. And now he comes to a team that is thinking nothing but cup, right? So
Yes.
that certainly has got to help out a lot. But kudos to him because I really noticed him last night. And I haven't really noticed him much in his career. So I wanted to shout him out. And I know you're listening, Mr. VC. So there you go. Now you've got full support from John, from the GOAT, and Pearlo. So you thought you were feeling good before. Now you're feeling wicked. Okay, let's get on to some defensive notes from Toronto. Because that's really what it's all about with Toronto, right? It's how's their defense going to be? How's their defense? Honestly, I still don't think their defense has looked stellar. Winnipeg made them look good last night more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this: you were a little higher on Bogosian than me, and at least last night Bogosian looked pretty darn good. Not too bad at all. Probably the best I've seen of Bogosian. In Tampa, it was okay, but I think last night was probably the best I've seen Bogosian play since he was like 23 years old. Dermott, I like to see him playing only 10 minutes a night finally, because that's about all you want out of Dermott. Do you agree with that, by the way? Or I think you were a little higher on Dermott than me.
No, I was high on Dermott when he first came into the league, but I haven't seen the progression in the development up to being a top 4 guy that I was hoping to see with him, or that I thought I was going to see with him after his rookie season. I honestly think his rookie season might have been his best year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he just hasn't continued that growth that I thought he was going to since then. So they also played 7 defensemen, looking at the stat sheet here. So that allowed them to take the ice time down a little bit for a guy like Dermott. Lettinen only played 6 minutes. Bogosian played 14, but they relied heavily on their top 4. Hole and Muzzin played 20 minutes. Riley and Brody played 23. So they're relying heavily on their top 4 to really anchor them defensively.
Yeah, and that was a smart move considering, again, they were playing 4 games in 6 nights. Nobody plays more than your defenseman on the ice. So why not put in a guy like Lettinen, get his feet wet in the NHL, take a couple minutes for guys that usually play higher minutes, and smart move by what's his name, the coach for Toronto? I always forget his name.
Sheldon
Keefe. I don't know why I forget his name. He played in the NHL. So far Toronto really hasn't did anything wrong. I think they kind of took Ottawa for granted that one game, but for the most part, they've been playing as good as you would hope for if you were a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I would say. So we'll go to our next one now. I gotta move over here. My satellite's moving slow. Oh yeah. Do we have to move to the next one? Really?
Don't need to spend not much to talk about with this one.
No, not really. Oh my gosh, my Philadelphia Flyers. And when you hear me say my Philadelphia Flyers, then you'll hear me say my Edmonton Oilers, because I have 2 teams and I love them both the same. They're like my kids. And oh man, you did this live last night. By the way, I highly recommend you check out. Are you doing a live tonight, John?
Yeah, Washington-Pittsburgh tonight.
Washington-Pittsburgh. All of you watching, all the droves of you watching right now, get over to the live tonight. I think I'm a little tired. I think I'm tapped out for tonight. I'm going to probably take a break, but Washington, Pittsburgh, I will be on that because I'll be out there. I like the chat rooms that you put up there. You guys should go over there. It's fun. Anyways, you did this live last night, and maybe not the best selection of the games, however, that you could have chosen, and probably not. Maybe we were kind of thinking it might be a game that you wouldn't be able to watch the whole thing or wouldn't want to because of a blowout, but not generally because of who blew out who, right?
Yeah, this was a stunner. Buffalo just destroyed Philadelphia. It wasn't even close. From the drop of the puck, it was all Sabres. And Philly, it honestly looked like Philadelphia forgot that they had a game last night and just didn't even bother going. But Buffalo just took it to them from the get-go. And I was really surprised because Philadelphia looked really, really good in their first two
Yeah.
games. It had to be kind of a just expecting an easy win type thing, but there's no easy wins in the NHL. I don't care who you're playing. There's no easy wins. And Toronto learned that in their first game against Ottawa. And I think Philly just learned that lesson last night against Buffalo, who started the season 0-2 and really needed to get into the win column. And boy, did they. They came out and just hammered the or the Philadelphia Flyers last night, and the game was a blowout all night long. And Philly just, I don't know what happened there, but they play again tonight, and I have a feeling we're going to see a different game tonight than what we saw last night.
Well, we better. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
that if you can't come back from a performance like that and put out an effort, there is already some issues and something going on. Like just about any team, if you drop a performance like that and don't come back full bore the next night, it's something to be concerned about for sure. Their defense was just absolutely pathetic. I'm not going to say it any other way. It was absolutely pathetic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what the heck? I freaking just took. Oh yeah, here we go. I just took out my NHL site that it just tells me what all the games are. But I haven't seen. Well, they had games like that in Montreal when they played Montreal in the playoffs, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I hope we don't see this anymore. Like some of the worst games I've ever saw them play was in Montreal, and they basically did the same thing against Buffalo. It looked like to me like they just thought they won before they got started. And in the NHL, that is just inexcusable to go into any game thinking you got it, because we just talked about the parity in the league and like a team being tired uh,
Mm-hmm.
can beat any team, and you've mentioned it several times. Any team in the NHL can beat any team at any time,
Yep.
even if you're playing well. So, yeah, it was an absolute. I guess for Buffalo, it was great because that Reichel, not just the fact that they won, but that Reichel, Hull, and Eichel line got some chemistry. We're given an opportunity to get some chemistry and confidence. And watch out if that line gets chemistry and confidence for Buffalo, right?
Oh yeah, that line was absolutely phenomenal. Hall had 3 assists, Eichel had 3 assists, Reinhart had a couple goals. That line was dominant in the game last night from start to finish. They were fantastic out there. And that's a very dangerous line. If they get going and they're playing, firing on all cylinders, that is a very, very dangerous line, and could be one of the top point producing lines in the league if they continue to play at that level. And this was a huge win for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yes.
Because they lost their first two games to Washington, and that if the losses continue to pile up for Buffalo, you're gonna they're gonna be counted out very early because it's Buffalo. They haven't made the playoffs in almost a decade. It will be a decade if they miss this year. And they're a team that it's very easy to get down on because of their recent history. And if they had started this season 0-3 or 0-4 or something like that,
Uh,
um, that's that's as bad of a start as you could get. So for them to come out and pick up a big win after dropping their first two games, I think is absolutely huge for the Sabres. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. But if they could steal another win tonight and get back to 500, all of a sudden Buffalo might start to gain a little bit of confidence. And this could be a scary team if they get things headed in the right direction.
Yeah, the rest of the league is not happy with the Philadelphia Flyers right now because, like you said, if that line gets rolling, you just don't know. Well, I should maybe not the rest of the league, but certainly that division is not happy with the Philadelphia Flyers right now because the giving those guys confidence to playing with each other and getting the ball rolling, they can do some damage if that lineup is top notch. There's still question marks on their defense, but Darlene has also looked very strong in the losses even this year, which isn't really a surprise. He's been coming along a little slower than a lot of people thought, but I mean, it's Buffalo. That's
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's generally what happens for the Buffalo Sabres. But yeah, Darlene's progressing nicely. He's continuing to get better, and when you have a really young defenseman who is taken, that high in the draft, that's what you're hoping for, and he certainly has looked solid to start this year. And I thought Rasmus Ristolainen, and that's a guy that I kind of rag on a lot, but I thought he looked phenomenal in the game last night.
Mm,
He threw a couple of huge
hmm.
hits, very noteworthy hits, one against Voracek and the second one against Konechny. And overall, I thought he just had a really, really good game. He was shut down defensively, played well on the penalty kill, played well on the power play. And you've got Darlene and Risto there to kind of be your top defenseman, but they had a bunch, all their other defensemen played 18 minutes as well. I think that's if you look at the stat sheet for Buffalo's defensive ice time, especially knowing that they had a game, you know, tonight, so they were playing back-to-back nights, Ristolainen only played 20-43, and that led the team in ice time as far as defensemen goes. The rest of them all either played 18 or 19 minutes, and they really evened that ice time out, which obviously a blowout game allows you to do a lot easier than if it were a close game, but I think they managed their decor and they managed their ice time very well, which is going to allow them to, still have energy and be fresh for tonight's game.
Yeah, and it will. This was a huge opportunity for the Philadelphia Flyers, and all these games are bigger than normal. Like, you when you're who would have thought with the two Carters in goal that the one with the last name Hart was the one that was going to lose,
Yeah.
especially when it's Hutton. And now tomorrow it's apparently um, is Allmark is injured, so I don't know what they're playing today. That's why I haven't give a pick in for this game yet. If it's Johansson, the kid, or they're going to go back to Carter Hutton, I'm not sure. But either way, Philadelphia's got to pile it on. I think I would. I don't know if they after a performance like that, do you put Elliott in net now? Do you run with Carter Hart again? Or I think he likely will put Elliott in now. But they got to crush it. They got to crush it tonight for sure.
Yeah, I mean this is a big game for Philly is in the bounce back category. They've got to have a much better performance tonight. If I'm Buffalo, I'm going right back to Carter Hutton tonight. I'm not playing the kid. Hutton looked phenomenal last night, and he didn't have a lot of work. It wasn't a draining game for Carter Hutton. He only faced 22 shots. He stopped 21 of them. There wasn't a lot of action down in the Buffalo end. So even though you'd be playing him back-to-back nights, I think he's perfectly capable of playing again tonight. And if you're Philadelphia, yeah, you've got to get shots to the net and try and break through him because if he lets a couple in, then you might start to see the floodgates open a little bit. And what a decision for Alain Vigneault as far as his goaltending situation. I mean, Hart started last night and got lit up. Let in 4, then he got pulled. Elliott came in and let in 2. Um, Neither of them looked particularly good. So do you go back to Hart, given the fact he didn't last the whole game, and try and give him a bounce back performance, or you just try Elliott again, or you go with Elliott and give Hart the night off and let him regroup for the Bruins on Thursday? That's a tough decision for Vigneault, for sure.
Yeah, Yeah, I was just about to say I think I'll go back to Hart, and then it's one of those things where but I mean, it's a shortened season, compacted. This should be a good time to give Hart a break, right? But now you lose that game, and you're like, do I want to do that? Do I want to get back on the roll again and put Carter back in? Do I want to get Carter back on the confidence train, and throw him right back in there? So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if I could really argue any decision he makes. I could see a reason for any decision AB makes for who he puts in goal. So I don't
Yeah.
even know if there's really a wrong decision. There's an argument to be made for all of them. So okay, let's move over a game that you probably also didn't watch, but I watched somewhat. I didn't watch a lot of this game either. San Jose Sharks and the St. Louis Blues. But there's
Yep.
a lot to talk about with these two teams, just in general. They made a lot of moves. They didn't really make a lot of moves. In San Jose's case, they did bring in some guys, but they have a very interesting team. And the St. Louis Blues did, of course, make the move with bringing in Krug and losing Peter Angelo, and how their defense is going. They have been weird. Is the best way I can put it. The St. Louis
Oh
Blues
yeah.
so far this year are not playing, except for the first game against Colorado. The rest is
Yep.
just kind of all gone. Like, who's this team, right?
Yeah, it's weird. The St. Louis Blues are giving up a ton of goals.
Mm.
Now they are 2-1. They've won 2 out of their first 3 games, but man, this is not the defensive lockdown Blues that won the Stanley Cup in 2019. Not even close.
No.
They are playing run and gun hockey, and that first game they held Colorado to 1 goal, and that was easily the Blues' best game that they've played as far as a whole. The second game they get completely destroyed by the Avalanche. Now this one against San Jose, it's a 5-4 game, and we're not used to seeing the Blues play games like this. Um, it's been a really weird start to the season for St. Louis in particular.
Yeah. Now on San Jose side of things, that's pretty much par for the course. They blew a lead against, what was it?
Arizona.
Arizona, I want to say, yeah, and ended up winning the game. But 5-4 contest with the likes of Carlson, Burns. They're playing Ferrero 25 minutes a night right now, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I like what Ferrero's done for himself in the league, but I don't want to be. Not a guy that I want to be playing 25 minutes a night, right?
Yeah, he played more than Marc-Edouard Vlasic last night by about 2 minutes.
Yeah, because Vlasic has fallen apart and has been for the last little while.
Yep.
San Jose's defense looks really bad, and funny thing I noticed was with St. Louis last night is the line of Hoffman, Robert Thomas, and Tyler Bozak. That's the line that they put together. That is not what I saw where I saw them placing Hoffman. How about you?
No, that's quite an interesting line there, but I guess they've kind of switched things up here to start the season. I thought we were going to see Hoffman, probably, either Perron plays well with O'Reilly, but I figured that you'd see Hoffman probably on that second line, and now having Bozak up there and Thomas. I mean, I believe they've taken Braden Shen and put him up on the left wing rather than having him play as your second line center, which kind of already jumbles the lines as far as St. Louis is concerned compared to what I thought they were going to look like.
Yeah.
But now you've got, Thomas, Bozak, both of those guys can play center. One of them obviously is playing the wing now, and then you've got Hoffman out there with them. I thought you'd want Hoffman in maybe a little bit more of an offensive role, but it's just St. Louis, I think, is just trying to figure out that lineup this season. I think they're trying to see what they have. They've made a good number of changes. I mean, Hoffman coming in, Pietrangelo going out, Krug coming in. I think they're really just trying to figure out what they have, and I would not be surprised if you see quite a bit of line juggling for the Blues. And also, Kyrou has played outstanding
Yes.
for St. Louis, which has kind of forced them to play him a little bit higher in the lineup than I think they were originally expecting to, because he had a goal and an assist last night.
Yeah. No, I kind of like the way, I like when they do stuff like this. Barry Trotz is quite known for taking lineups and doing different things with trying to make it so that they're scoring in all the lines. And
Yep.
I mean, Oscar Sundqvist on the fourth line. I mean, that is a great player to be playing on the fourth line. Sanford, Riley, and Perron, Schwartz, Shen, and Kyrou. They were switching Kyrou and Shen from center to wing.
Yeah.
And then Hozak. So you've got three lines that have all a whole different flavor of things, with Zachary, being the corner cruncher. And, O'Reilly can do that himself. And then Perron, of course, is that shot off the wing. He's got a very under... People don't talk about Perron's shot enough. He's a great shot. And Schwartz, Shen, and Kyrou, that young kid coming up and playing as well as he had with Hoffman. And then Robert Thomas is a good grinder in the corners. And Tyler Bozak is I think that one there, it's Tyler Bozak gets to feed Hoffman from the wing. And give him that shot there. So it's an interesting combination for sure. But I think where you're right, they're playing with the lineups and maybe having difficulties so far is getting Torrey Krug integrated into the lineup. Not to mention Justin Falk only came in last year as well. So that, and Scandella, actually. So it's kind of for the last year, this has really become a whole new look defense. And it looks like it's taken a little while. And not only that, Jordan Binnington we questioned him before the season started, didn't we?
Yeah, I did a whole video on my channel about how Binnington needed a big year this year to kind of prove that Stanley Cup run wasn't just a young goalie getting hot and a one-hit wonder type thing. And Binnington is not off to a good start this season. Save percentage is down at .883. Goals against average is over 3 to start the year. He's got to be a lot better in net if he thinks he's going to be getting a long-term contract to be a goaltender somewhere. He wasn't good in the bubble last year, and he's not off to a good start this season either. I'm starting to get a little worried about the long-term longevity of a guy like Jordan Binnington as a starting goaltender. We've seen it before where goalies get really hot for a short stretch and can be really, really good, and then they go downhill and are never the same again. And I'm starting to get a little worried that could be the Jordan Binnington story.
Yeah, yes, and the problem, of course, is they don't have much to back them up right now.
No.
If Binnington isn't going, they can't be winning 6-5. Is it 5-6 or 6-5? What was this score? Yeah,
5-4.
5-4. They can't be winning 5-4 games every day. They like we just mentioned, they do have depth and they're going to score with that from all lines. They can score from all lines. But St. Louis isn't really known for that, and I'm pretty sure they want to get back to their tough grinding playoff-style hockey that won them a cup in the first place. Playing against San Jose, you have an opportunity to show that off. But they had to basically bail themselves out with their offense, and I don't think St. Louis wants to do that every night. Especially if Binnington's not stopping, especially the makeable pucks. St. Louis could be in trouble. St. Louis could definitely be in trouble.
You don't want your goaltender giving up 3.38 goals per game. That's just you're not going to win long term with a goals against average that high.
Right, and you can say it's the defense and stuff, but I watched that. The goals that I saw him let in. I mean, some of them were okay, but he hasn't looked super strong. Besides maybe one game this year, consistency has always been the issue. He's kind of an arrogant kid, to say the least. I'm not even going to say kind of. He's a really arrogant kid. And the problem with being arrogant, a lot of people say, well, cockiness is good. It's not when things start going south a lot of the times, because arrogance is actually a sign of insecurity in yourself. So if things start going south, quite often arrogant players, besides Patrick Waugh,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, he was on a whole other level.
yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. Fortunately for him, his skill level was the only thing that outdid his arrogance.
Yes.
Because otherwise he would have been in big trouble. But when things start going south, so does the goaltender usually quite a bit. And so it'll be interesting to see if they can get him on the right track. Trading Allen, maybe kind of wondering if that was such a good idea after all. But
Yeah.
cap issues forced him out, and it could be a problem.
Definitely could be. I think especially having no what's the word? Like proven backup goaltender to back up Binnington.
Yeah.
Where at least if you had Jake Allen there, if you needed to sit Binnington down for a week, you could throw Allen in there and have a pretty good idea of what you were going to get.
Mhm.
Now with Ville Husso as the backup, he's never really played at the NHL level, so you have no idea what you're going to get. They are heavily dependent on Jordan Binnington to be their starting goaltender, and if he's giving up 3 goals a game, you're in trouble here if you're the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, and a .883. I mean, that's got to improve. Ville Husso has a 9.99 star goals against average. I watched that game when he went in. He looked like he was not ready. So that's I said they're two interesting teams. But we'll go on to the next game here. Like I said, I don't know why this is moving so slow today. There we go. Okay, next game we got Carolina Hurricane. We're playing a big game for them. I got to watch this game. It was the first game that they played that I could say the Carolina kind of looked like the Carolina we're hoping Carolina could beat.
Yep.
They of course they did win. Sometimes you can be that and still lose, but with even in their win, what are they 2-1, right? No, 2-1. Even with their win, even their win against Detroit, their first win, Carolina did not look like Carolina. They were having Detroit was really bad. Okay, they were both. Yep. It was one of those games where both teams were bad, and it was not fun to watch. It was not fun to watch.
Yeah.
Then they go and Detroit, turns things around, starts playing a lot better. And Nashville didn't really get their game going even in the second game. But here against the Preds, they did seem to look a lot better. I still say they play better behind Reimer than they do Mrazek. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. This was definitely the Hurricanes' best game of the season. And unfortunately, the game between these two teams for tonight got postponed because apparently the Hurricanes are having some COVID issues. So that's not good for the Hurricanes. But this game last night was definitely the best that they've looked so far this season. Aho had a strong night. Trocheck, who, Trocheck's a weird guy. He had a really good game last night. He's a guy that, he had some really good seasons with Florida, and then he kind of fell off, and he ended up getting traded to Carolina. He was okay, but he kind of found himself in a lower role with the Hurricanes last season, and he's had some injury issues. But if Vincent Trocheck can get back to being that top 6 guy that he was for, his best years with Florida, that's going to make the Hurricanes an even more dangerous team than they already are. And he had a very strong game last night. Carolina's, it's good to see them kind of get going. I think, like you said, that first game felt like a first game for both of those teams, Detroit and the Hurricanes. Then they got beat by Detroit, and it was like, whoa, what's going on here? But they came out and they played very well. They did get outshot, 33-24, but they came out, they won the game 4-2. They beat a team that was previously undefeated and had not lost yet in Nashville. And I think that that's kind of the Hurricanes that we're hoping to see and expecting them to be over the course of this season.
Yeah, they were outshot, but watching that game, like Carolina or Brindamore kind of has a strong defensive system. People don't think of defense when they think about the Carolina Hurricane, but when they're at their best, they play fantastic defense. And they kept the shots to outside. There wasn't very many, especially when you have goaltenders like Reimer and, not really the top goaltenders in the league. Keeping those shots to the outside, letting them see it, all of those things like that is extremely important. And that's the game you're looking for with Carolina when they're playing at their best. And they may get outshot and stuff like that, but it kind of reminds me of what Hitchcock used to do with the Dallas Stars back in the day without the clutch and grab and all that. He kind of has a system similar to that. And when they're playing it at their best, they can get outshot quite a bit, but the shots are just not high quality shots, right?
Yeah, for sure. And Reimer had a good game in goal. He had a .939 save percentage last night. Stopped 31 out of 33. And again, it feels like they do play better when Reimer's in net rather than Mrazek. And it's one of those things where sometimes the stats don't really play out everything or tell the story of what you actually saw if you saw the game. And when Carolina is on their game, I just they're counterattacking too. They're a counterattack team where they play that defensive and then they move the puck up quick and then they're going 2-on-1 the other way, and they want to counterattack, and they don't mind spending some time in their own zone because they're gonna get a 3-on-2 off the rush and then try and bury that 3-on-2. And they have the offensive skill to play that way and do that. And that's just kind of one of the things I've noticed with Carolina's style. And I think overall they outplayed the Nashville Predators, and I think it's important that as long as they're outplaying teams and they're getting the better, more quality of the chances, then the Hurricanes are going to win a majority of the time if they get the more quality chances.
Yeah, and I will quickly, because I always I slam him a lot. Gardner actually had his best game I've seen for a while. He actually looked not too bad last night at all. So when I say Gardner has the best game he has for a while, I use the words "not too bad." So he's less bad than usual. No, he was pretty good last night. So we'll go to the Nashville Predators. Might as well talk about them a little bit. They've actually come out pretty strong. I wouldn't say they played a bad game last night. So which is good. They looked a lot better than some of the fumbling around they were doing at the end of the season last year, for sure. It seems some of the moves that they've made, kind of an under the radar move that has really panned out from what I saw last night was Eric Halla.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting him to really play him to be that noticeable and to have that big of an impact on the game, but Howla coming over has been a very nice addition for the Predators, especially now Granlund is not in the lineup yet. So Howla takes that spot on the wing. I believe they have him playing the wing right now. And, can kind of fill in there. And Howla's a good guy that you can kind of move around up and down the lineup. He can play on the wing. He can play down the middle. He can play on the second line. He could play down on the fourth line if you needed him to. Like he's a versatile player that you can move around, and that I really do like those guys, and I think they can be an important piece, especially when you do have someone out of the lineup, that you have someone that you can kind of move around and fill out the roster and that lineup how you want it. And Howla's been a solid addition for them, and I think he's looked pretty good. He played almost 17 minutes last night, and he's been a nice addition, kind of a late free agency addition there, but he's fit in well with the Preds.
Yeah, and one of the questions marks with Nashville was how Hines was going to put his mark on this team as a coach taking over for Laviolette. And I said I had question marks in that area. However, the first 3 games, I'm actually really liking the way Nashville is playing. I think that if they keep on, playing at this level, They could very well make a push this year to make the playoffs. I liked Benny. I like the way they're using Benny. He's using Benny and Borayeki. They certainly are an upgrade over, was it Irwin and
Yeah, they had Irwin, Hamhuis,
Cam Hughes.
Corbinian Holzer after the trade down there.
Yeah. It's upgrade for sure.
They've upgraded their bottom pair this year, which I think is something that they really needed to do, and it already looks a lot better than it did last season.
Yeah, that's been the biggest thing I've seen. That certainly adds a lot of confidence. Pekka Rinne is, again, I've been saying it a while. Maybe time, Pekka. Maybe time.
I think so. Yeah. This is probably Rinne's last season, I would think.
I would have to think so for sure. Well, I'll just mention real quick. We can't leave these two teams without giving a shout out to Svechnikov. What an amazing player. Oh, so fun to watch. Incredible. I loved watching him last night. He's just getting better and better. I don't know where his ceiling is. I have no idea. He really just floors me every time. Yep. I'm going to. Oh, okay. We'll talk about it really quick. There's not much to talk about with the next game. I watched it. It was boring as hell.
I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah, the Ducks in the Wild.
1-0.
And it played like a 1-0 game. And that's the way the Ducks are going to win, though. The Ducks are going to win playing. If they're going to win, they're going to play just like that. And if I'll give a plus, Dallas Eakins has these guys playing strong defense. Maybe a better way of putting it is like desperate defense.
Yeah, and you know the Ducks are an interesting team this year because the expectations are so low. Pretty much everyone picked them to be a bottom feeding team this year, but you know if they're gonna win, it's gonna have to be low scoring. They do not have the offensive firepower to be putting up 4 or 5 goals in a game. You're not going to see them do that very often. Getzlaf is much older now and a shell of his former self. Silverberg can score a little bit. Raquel can score a little bit, but they just don't have the total team offense that's going to be able to put up a lot of goals. So if they want to win games, they're going to have to rely on John Gibson in net, who was absolutely phenomenal, stopping 34 out of 34 last night. And they're going to have to play well defensively. And they relied heavily on Kevin Shattenkirk and Hampus Lindholm. They both played almost 30 minutes last night. Josh Manson went down with an injury and only ended up playing 6 minutes in the game. So that would be a huge loss for the Ducks going forward.
Devastating.
But, you know, Shattenkirk, I think, looked really, really good last night.
Yeah, playing 30 minutes a night. I think Shattenkirk knew he was going to Anaheim to get traded at the deadline, but he just took the money, and I don't blame him. But, you know, he gets an opportunity to establish himself again as a top-line defenseman after having his issues with the Rangers there, after getting traded from St. Louis, never found his feet there with the Rangers, went to Tampa Bay, played well, and now he's got an opportunity to get a big paycheck at the end of this year. With the strong season, and he's certainly putting out a strong season. I even want to mention that Kaprizov, I mean, I don't want to say too much about the kid because he's been lights out the couple games, but I didn't even notice him last night. I didn't really notice anybody last night. And so I'm going to move on to the next game because I really don't want to talk too much about a game that was boring to watch. I watched it. It's one of those games where you try to watch as much as you can because there's a few guys you want to see how they're doing. And it's like, nah, I'm not putting myself through this. So we'll go to the next game then. I got the Flames and the Canucks. I had the Flames to win this game. Did you?
And I had the Canucks.
Oh, you did not. Sorry.
Yeah, I had the Canucks. But Vancouver's disappointed me to start this year. I was expecting big things from them this season, and to start out 1-3, I've been disappointed with the Vancouver Canucks, and last night was just another example of it. Especially they scored the first goal of the game too, and when Virtanen scored the first goal, I was like, okay, they got shut out 3-0 in the first game against Calgary, and I thought they would probably have a bounce back game and at least take a split there in those two games. And Virtanen scored the first goal, and I'm like, all right, Vancouver came to play tonight, and then it was just all Calgary after that. And I've just been I've been pretty disappointed with the Canucks so far this season.
I can say, I mean, they didn't come out. The problem with them is not coming out strong because they have a very difficult. This is again 4-6. I mean, when you're playing 4-6 against a fresh team, I really don't care what team it is for the most part. And Calgary's not a terrible team, and also have been came out playing very well, better than I thought. Although I wouldn't say fantastic, but not too bad. You're going to have a difficult time. You and I both picked Vancouver to win this division. Now, I'm not all that concerned with them starting off a little light. I think more than light. When you're going to play 7 games in 10 nights, man, you're not going to win too many of those games. But later on, they're going to have the opportunity to have their rest, and the other teams are going to come in their barn tired, and I think Vancouver's going to ruin them. But, yeah, I mean, it was a difficult game. I still say, remember was it you or we were talking to, or I was talking about trades that could happen. I think it was based on your trade video you did, where you had your followers do trades for, I can't remember who it was now, but I had, was it Laine? I don't know. I had one was Laine. What was the other one?
Dumba.
I had Dumba going to Vancouver, and I had Gaudette as my guy. I like Gaudette a lot, and they only play him 10 minutes a game there in Vancouver. And honestly, I scratched my head at it a little bit. I think he needs a new home, man. He really needs a new home. And I thought he played well last night. He's been playing well all year in the limited minutes he gets. He's not the best defensively, I get that. But he's not going to become that if he doesn't get the minutes either, I think. I will say that I have liked Hamonic in that roster. He's been playing some of the best hockey I've seen him play for a while.
Yeah, and that's important because that was a question mark for Winnipeg, was their defense core, especially when you get past the top 3 guys, where you have Hughes, Edler, and Schmidt is your top 3. Then that second 3, there was a lot of question marks there about who was going to be in the lineup, who wasn't, and how would they play. Having Hamonic playing well is going to be really important to kind of round out that D-core a little bit, and hopefully Tyler Myers, has a good season. They're paying him a lot of money now to kind of be more of a depth guy. But, Hamonic, it's good to see. Hamonic's an interesting story. He started out with the Islanders, then he wanted to go back to Western Canada. He played with the Flames, and then the Flames obviously let him go in free agency. He gets a 1-year deal from Vancouver, still in Western Canada where he wants to play. And, this is a big year for him. If Hamonic is going to continue to get contracts and continue to play in the NHL, he's going to have to perform. And it's good to see him off to a solid start with a new team.
Yeah, it is. I always liked Hammer. He's had when he was with the Islanders, I guess he had some family issues and he wanted to be closer to the West. And I remember hearing him talk about it, and he was like, I really hated to do it. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to let my team down. Like, he's a great attitude player that is a family guy and everybody loves in the room. And when he's playing at his best, he's a solid defensive defenseman. So, and he has been playing very well, I have to say. Chris Tanev's been playing a little better than I thought he would. I mean, he's playing as good as Chris Tanev can play. But overall, I wanted to talk about Rasmus Andersson because I've just loved him. And so far, almost every game for Calgary, he's been putting up more minutes than Giordano.
Yeah, he's becoming. I mean, Giordano is obviously getting up there in age now, and we're going to see his ice time go down just because they don't want to wear him out. But Rasmus Anderson has number one defenseman written all over him,
Yeah.
and this is a guy that Calgary has had in their system for a long time now. They drafted him back in 2015. I remember watching him play during rookie tournaments and things like that, and they were just waiting on that development, waiting on him to continue to grow. And then the past couple of years, he's really proven that he's NHL ready. And now, not only is he NHL ready, but he's ready to be a top pair guy in the NHL. He's got 3 points in 3 games. He's playing a ton, over 20 minutes a night. He's been the biggest ice time guy for the Flames. He plays in all situations. He can kill penalties. He plays on the power play, obviously 5-on-5. He had over 8 minutes of power play time on ice in the game last night,
Yeah.
and over a minute 10 of shorthanded time on ice as well. So he plays in all situations, and he just looks really, really good. Still just 24 years old. He's got future here, not even necessarily future. I think he could be it right now, but he's got number one defenseman written all over him.
He's number one now. From what I mean,
Yeah.
I've watched a few Calgary games now, and I mean, I liked him last year. I was talking about him last year. I said, watch out for this Rasmus Anderson kid. This
Yep.
guy looks like and I don't know. Again, he's one of those guys where I can't put a ceiling on him right yet. He just keeps on getting better and better all the time, which is great for Calgary because they need it. And they also have other young guy that I've touted quite a bit that's looking really good so far in Valimaki too. So they're
Yep.
set up not too bad in the youth department in those two spots. Maybe not so much down the road. Hopefully Oliver Shylington picks it up a little bit for them, but. For those two spots, they're 1 and 2 spots for the future. They're looking pretty good. And also, Calgary has to be taking a big sigh of relief that Johnny Gaudreau looks like he's got a little fire already this year.
Yeah, Goodrow definitely having a better year already than he did last year, just from how he's looking point. He needed a bounce back season. For sure, because last season was not good for him. Remember, 2 years ago, he had 99 points, and then last year he only had 58, only 18 goals, didn't even get to 20 goals. And it was a tough year, and he just looked pretty poor throughout the season. Well, so far to start this year, he's over a point per game. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists already. And if Goodrow gets going and plays like the 99-point Johnny Gaudreau rather than the 58-point Johnny Gaudreau, Calgary is going to be a team that is going to be really pushing hard for a playoff spot and certainly capable of getting in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we had Calgary out this year, but with Gaudreau, like you said, if Gaudreau turns it around, it's just a tough division. Period. We were mentioning, okay, we made our selections, but nothing.
There's going to be 2 or 3 good teams that don't make the playoffs.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Well, I was saying last night on the live I was doing that if Calgary was playing in another division, they probably make it fairly easily. It's just this division. You could say the same thing about the Buffalo Sabres probably over there they could play it in another division and make it, but playing in the East, those are got to be the 2 toughest divisions this year.
Absolutely.
So let's go. It actually went kind of fast. So now we're going to talk about, again, my Oilers, who I actually bet against last night.
I did as well. Turned into a good bet for me.
Good investment,
Yeah.
You did well in the money front yesterday altogether, didn't you?
Yeah, I got 3 out of 4 bets right, so I did pretty well. I was happy with my first bets of the season.
Yeah, well, that was your first bet ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first time actually putting real money down and actually betting on stuff. So I was happy with the way that went. It would have been nice if the Canucks could have pulled off the upset, but getting this Canadiens win by 2 definitely made up for it.
Oh, did you have it PL? You had a puck line?
Yeah, I had Canadiens puck line.
Woo! good one, buddy. That's nice. I
Yeah.
didn't even have a PL. I had an ML. I'm the cautious capper, the cautious capper. I
Yeah.
call myself. My clients are always like, well, they always do way more than I do. I say, if you want to go crazy,
Hmm.
do this, and they do. But I don't like to. I don't like to lose. I don't. Yeah. So,
Yep.
anyways, we'll get that again. We have it's people are getting really upset already with the Edmonton Oilers, but they're playing a lot of freaking games again. 4-6 again. Montreal was
Hmm.
fairly fresh. That's why I was putting the money on Montreal here. Also, Montreal just looks strong, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I've been very impressed with the Montreal Canadiens so far this season. They haven't lost in regulation yet. The first game they lost against the Leafs was in overtime, and then they've won their last two. And I've thoroughly impressed with the Canadiens this year so far. I think Nick Suzuki looks phenomenal. Kokaniemi's not really getting huge ice time, but he's playing well in the role that he's been given. Josh Anderson actually has had a decent start to the season with his new team.
Yeah.
And, again, hopefully he can stay healthy. That's kind of the big question of that. But Anderson's looked good so far. And how about Romanov on the back
Yeah.
end?
Yeah. He's
That kid coming over looks absolutely phenomenal. He's got a goal and an assist already, and he's just played great to start his NHL career.
He has, and I honestly didn't. I'll admit it. I didn't really see what Montreal saw in him over there. I watched him play in the KHL, but I'm now realizing that his game actually translates better to the
Hmm.
North American game than he does in the KHL. I
Yep.
miss that, and he doesn't back down from anybody. He plays solid. He gets the puck out of the zone well. They're playing him 17 minutes a night, but I could see that increasing over time. Um,
Oh yeah.
the way he's playing, they're playing him with Kulak right now mostly. Also,
Hmm.
Joel Edmondson has looked really well with Petrie. He's playing very physical for the Montreal Canadiens. He's getting back to that physical game he was playing in St. Louis, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's what they wanted him to do. I think that's why when Edmondson in Carolina, he didn't really work out as well as the Hurricanes were hoping. But I thought, him going to Montreal would actually be a good spot for him, especially if he did play on that line or on that pairing with Petrie, because that would allow Petrie to be the offensive guy and just let Edmondson sit back and focus on defense. And that's what he's done so far this season. He's been great defensively. He only has 1 point on the year, but he's +5 on the season already. He's a great penalty killer. He had over 6 minutes of shorthanded time on ice last night. He's been very good on the PK, and you don't need big time points out of Joel Edmondson, and that's not the player that he is. But if you let him sit back and play that defensive role, he can be a very, very effective defensive defenseman. And I think with his physicality and his overall defensive play, that's what he's been so far for the Canadians, and they've got to be happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's exactly what they want. And I had my reservations. I mentioned that about Carolina. He couldn't make the roster there, but
Hmm.
you have Claude Julien is a fantastic coach. I can't
Yep.
say enough about him. He seems to be able to get the best out of everybody. He seems to be able to get people to play a certain role, like you mentioned with Kokaniemi. Although Kokaniemi's attitude period is great for that. He'll play whatever role you
Yep.
give him. Um, a guy, who I just think, I mean, he's always kind of been underrated. But so far this year, I think he's playing the best hockey of his career is Danault. Danault has been playing This is a guy
Yep.
who's playing to say, I'm a number one center in this league.
Yep. And there was a lot of talk about him possibly getting traded in the offseason because of all the other moves that Montreal was making. They were like, maybe Deneau's on his way out here, but he's trying to prove that he is a top guy.
Hmm.
Because I think, he feels like his spot is being threatened a little bit with the young guys coming up in Suzuki and
Yeah.
Kotkaniemi. And he's playing for his job, and he's playing to prove that I belong in the top 6 of an NHL lineup. And he's had a very good start to the season, and he's a great two-way player. He is one of those centers that plays at a 200-foot game at both ends of the ice. And those are guys that are really important to have and really good to have in the playoffs.
Yeah, so far he's in the 45-point range, somewhere around there. But playing the defense that he plays, that's okay. I mean, Mikko Koivu made a career of that as a number one center playing against. He doesn't just play against anyone either. He plays against the other team's top line. If you can get 45 to 50 points playing against the other team's top line and playing stellar defense, and I'll tell you, he's been playing stellar defense. His penalty kill this year has been absolutely. He's been knocking down pucks like I haven't seen. He really is just on his game completely, and I've always liked his game, but he's been fantastic. Yep. I remember in the year during the year they asked him about it because Domi was, trying to play center and all that. And he flat out just said to the media, he said, I'm a top 6 center in this league, period.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
You got to love.
And I think he is.
You got to love that, man.
Oh yeah, and he's got that chip on his shoulder, and he's got that attitude where he's going to go out there and prove it.
Yeah.
And when he's playing at the level that he is right now, you got to love it if you're a Canadiens fan.
All right, we'll talk about the Oilers a little bit, and I'm going to be a little guarded in my talking about the Oilers. Have they played well the last 2 games? No, but they have been extremely tired. Now, that being said, we just talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs, who Edmonton kind of gets jumbled up in, who played against a Winnipeg team in 4 games in 6 nights, and I just said they look fantastic. Well, the Edmonton Oilers have not looked fantastic.
No, to say the least. It's been a tough start for the Oilers, and I feel kind of the same way about the Oilers as I do about the Canucks. Because they've both played a lot of games here early, and they're both 1-3 to start the season, and it's a disappointing start for both of them. The thing that just worries me though is it certainly makes sense why they're not playing well, and they only have 1 win in their first 4, because this schedule is not kind to them. They have to play a lot of hockey right out of the gate with not a lot of rest and not a lot of practice time, but with the shortened season, just digging yourself in a hole is going to be a lot harder to get out of with a 56-game season than it would with an 82-game season. Yeah. And I worry about these teams that are getting out to 1-3 starts, because it's only been 4 games. It's still early. But if you're looking at the first 10 games being 3-7. That's a tough hole to try and dig out of and catch up on everyone else when you do have a shorter year than normal. So I'd like to see Edmonton get it going here, and at least they have a 2-game set with Toronto coming up this week. I'd like to see them at least take one of those Toronto games.
I'd like to see it too, but I mean that's a tall order. Now the thing, like you just mentioned, this is going to be all about the teams that are going to be the cream of the crop are going to be the ones to play these 4 games and 6 night games and can stay even at least,
Yep.
And Toronto has already shown that they can do that. We took Vancouver to win, but they're showing that they're not able to do that. Now, that being said, Vancouver's competition has been pretty fierce, right?
It has, they've played tough.
It's not just a 4 and 6; they're playing tough teams as well. Like Toronto does have Ottawa in there. However, they did lose against Ottawa.
They lost. They did lose one of those Ottawa games.
But then they played Winnipeg, who a very injured Winnipeg team, and that I think if Toronto plays Calgary in that game, I don't think that's anywhere near as likely that they win that game. So
I would agree with that.
So it's scheduling is very important right now. I think Vancouver for sure will be okay. And the reason why I say that is because first of all, Green is a fantastic coach, but if you watch them, they are still giving an enormous effort. Certain parts of the period, they're actually taking over the game and then faltering and stuff like that. My concern with the Oilers is they're not even showing that.
Yeah, I haven't liked the compete level in some of these games for the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm worried about them defensively as well. It's their defense is just there's just so many questions there,
Yeah,
and they have no Oscar Klefbom for this entire season. They're relying heavily right now on Darnell Nurse to play like 25 minutes a game, which I think is probably too big of a role for him at this point.
absolutely.
Um, Larson only played 12:50 last
Yeah,
night. Like he's got to be your shutdown guy. He's got to be your shutdown defenseman, and if he's not playing well, you really don't have anybody that can replace that. Um, Tyson Barrie played 23 and a half minutes. We know Barry's good offensively, but when it comes to his own zone, there's certainly issues there from time to time. I worry about this team's defense and can they keep the puck out of their net?
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Larson playing 12:50. I don't know if he's injured or whatever. Maybe he's playing hurt, but he's played really bad every single game. He deserves a 12:50 right now. He has not been good at all.
That's bad news for Edmonton.
Absolutely, because I mean, yeah, you're right. He's the only guy that's really a shutdown guy. Chris Russell
Yep.
playing 20 minutes last night. You don't want that.
You don't want that. You want him playing 13, 14.
Yes, and most of those minutes being on the penalty kill, except for the.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he played almost 3 minutes of power play
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. Kukuk is played well. He's probably been played over what I expected from Kukuk so far
Mm-hmm.
this year. But I mean, you don't want Kukuk playing 18 minutes a night. Yeah, there's. I know they took Bear out, and who else did they take out? They took Bear and
Caleb Jones
yeah,
in,
no, it
and
was
then he got
Jones.
taken
Jones.
out.
They took Jones
Yep.
in because they wanted fresh legs out there, but
Yeah.
it didn't work. And I agree. I said it before the season. I'm still concerned about their defense. I picked them, I think, third, but you get stars in your eyes when you hear McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hopkins, and then
Yep.
and Puljujärvi, like I don't see how he's really played any better than when he left. I'm just gonna flat out say it.
He has no points in his -4.
Yeah, he looks lost. He
That's
still looks lost out there.
that is not what you were looking for when he came back this
Not
season.
at all. Played 12 minutes last night. I think he's putting him on the power play. Most of the 4 minutes and 31 seconds. Probably the best place for him. Less chance he's going to be a problem on the defensive side of things.
Yep.
So anyways, we'll move on to, I guess it's our final game.
Yeah. One more to go. And I did this. What a game this was.
Yeah.
This was a phenomenal hockey game.
You were able to watch this more than I, so I'm going to let you fly in it. Though I did move over. I watched a lot of the third period quite a bit. You got to give it to Arizona. They're not going to back down, even though that lineup on paper looks like, whew, right?
Yeah, no. Arizona, when you look at their lineup on paper, there isn't a whole lot offensively, and I predicted them to finish 7th in the division. I wasn't expecting a whole lot from the Coyotes this year, but they're definitely not a team that's just going to roll over and just hand you games. And they played very, very hard last night. They got out to a 1-0 lead on a shorthanded goal from Tyler Pitlick. Then Schmaltz scored on the power play, and they were up 2-0 in the game. They were really controlling the play. They were the better team. They were out shooting the Vegas by a pretty significant margin at that point in the second period. And then Vegas decided that they didn't want to lose. And it was one of those things where, you just kind of get that feeling from a team that they're not going to lose this game. And once Max Pacioretty scored towards the end of that second period to make it 2-1 heading into the intermission, you just had a feeling that Vegas was going to come out firing in the third, and that's exactly what they did. They completely dominated the third period. They scored 3 straight goals in the third and ended up winning 4-2. They overall in the game they scored 4 unanswered goals, and it was just a case of Vegas. Vegas was the better team. They got outplayed early, but they were able to kick it into gear later in the game, and once they did, they just took over.
Yeah, from what I saw, from what I did see of it, that's exactly it. And the Arizona's just gonna if you're gonna go in Arizona, you better work. They are gonna outwork you every night. Rick Tocchet's a great motivator, great coach that way. He has a high standard for work ethic, and which is funny because they have Phil Kessel on their team, but. Not that I shouldn't say that. On the ice, Phil Kessel doesn't not work. He may be not the best defensive guy, but he will go to the tough areas to get a shot and stuff like that away. But that's basically what happened is Vegas was kind of back on their heels because Arizona, their biggest weapon is their work ethic.
Yeah, absolutely. And Arizona played very, very well in the first half of that game, and they were kind of taking it to Vegas, and I think it caught Vegas off guard a little bit. Vegas was not ready for the start of that game. Arizona was. And the Coyotes are not a team that's just gonna, like I said, they're not just gonna hand you a game. They're gonna fight for it each and every night. I just think at the end of the day, the Coyotes didn't have that offense that they needed to put the game away and get that third or fourth goal and really put the game away. And once they let Vegas stay in it, all it took was that Max Pacioretty goal at the end of the second, and after that, Vegas's confidence level really went back up, and Arizona just couldn't hold them off. And I mean, Kemper is as good as you're going to get in goal, really, and he did his absolute best, but he just was peppered in that third period, and it wasn't enough. And I really think that the Coyotes needed that third goal to put that game away, and they just couldn't get it.
I think you're going to be saying that a lot this year with the Coyotes. They simply
I agree.
Just don't have and Tocchet's doing the same sort of thing that and same thing as in St. Louis. Just my favorite player of all time. One of my favorite players of all time, and the coach is not going in my head here. St. Louis coach.
Craig Berube.
Craig Berube, we were talking about mixing the offense throughout the lines. Arizona does the same thing, which they have really no choice. If they're going to win, they really got to score from all lines if they can find a way to do so. And they're playing like Clayton Keller with Brassard and Tyler Pitlick.
Yep.
That's Tyler Pitlick anywhere on an offensive role. Your team probably doesn't have the offensive depth needed to make the playoffs.
That's exactly it. They don't have the scoring. They don't have the big point producing players.
No.
Their lineup, you look throughout it, they've got some solid guys. They've got some guys who can maybe give you 15 to 20 goals, but they don't have the star players up front that are going to give you consistent high scoring offense. And I don't see the Coyotes winning many games that they give up 4 goals in. I just don't think they're going to be able to consistently score at that level. There might be nights here and there where they put 5 up and have a good night, but consistently, I think you're going to see the Coyotes scoring between 2 and 3 goals a game. And if they give up 3 to 4 a night, it's going to be tough for them to win.
I don't think there's going to be too many nights where they give up that many either, but just because of Darcy Kemper, and Antti Raanta too. Like, what a waste of one of the best, if not the best, goaltending duos in the league, right?
Yep, absolutely. If they had any form of offense in front of those two, I mean, Arizona would be an easy playoff team and would probably be up there competing for, second place. if they had any offense whatsoever.
Yeah, and they really just don't. I mean, even their defense, Goligoski is 35 now. You know, he just doesn't have. He used to be a 40-point guy, and he's been one of the
Yep.
most underrated defensemen in the league for quite some time. But you're not
Yep.
going to be getting points out of him anymore. Jordan Orstele is your average defenseman, has really done well to with the tools he has to be an NHLer, and you know you got to respect that. But you're not seeing Nicholas Jalmerson or Capo Bianco or Jason Demers anymore putting up offense that from the defense that you need, especially with the team that doesn't have much offense in their offense.
Yeah, and that's putting all of the pressure on Jacob Chikrin, who's only 22.
Yes.
And he's got 4 points already this
Yeah.
season. He's playing, over 22 minutes a game, and he's really getting all of your power play time as far as the defensemen go, and they're putting a whole lot of pressure on him to put up all the points from the back end. And it's hard to win this day and age in the NHL with only one scoring defenseman.
Absolutely, and I mean, I love Jacob Chikrin. I just, I love the guy. I kind of feel for him in that situation. Um, Arizona's kind of the next year team, right? Because all of these guys come off the books except for Chikrin, pretty much next year.
Yep.
Also, Ekman Larson now being injured. I mean, I don't know how long he's out for, but every game he's out really screws them for any chance of making the playoffs, which I never really gave him much of a chance anyways. But he does bring some offense to the defense there.
Yeah, they need him back badly.
For sure. Look at Stevenson. I wanted to talk about him. We talk about him not being, a top six guy. But the guy just seems to be able to flow. What was it? Off of his back and in last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, he scored last night. He actually had a goal and an assist last night, so maybe he can produce at top 6-point levels. But yeah, Stevenson had one bounce off his back. Zach Whitecloud threw it at the net, and like they say at all levels of hockey, it's never a bad idea just to throw it at the net and see what happens. And it bounced in off of Stevenson and in for him to pick up his first goal of the year. And he was playing second line center. He was their second line center last night.
Yeah.
And didn't really look out of place there. He was more of a fourth liner when he was in Washington, but he didn't really look out of place there. And I have to say, I've been impressed with Vegas. They just seem to find ways to make it work.
Yes.
They just find ways to take what they have and make it work.
Yep. And they got a lot of flack for firing Gallant and bringing in DeBoer. Now, back in that, I was confused by the firing. Don't get me wrong, but I did like the hiring though. I liked DeBoer more than most people did at the time. I really love him, and it's kind of gone seamlessly. It's gone very well for them. Maybe you could make a case that if Gallant was there, they would have did better in the playoffs and scored more, I suppose, against Dallas. But everybody was having a tough time at that time with them, so I can't really put it. But they've looked really good to start the season. How did Peter Angelo look? I didn't get much of a chance to watch that game last night in his new digs.
He had an okay game. It certainly wasn't his best or a standout game or anything like that, but he didn't stand out as bad either. He played well defensively. He played 24 minutes. He had 3 shots on goal and 4 block shots. So typical Pietrangelo, just, both ends of the ice, almost 6 minutes of power play time, almost 4 minutes of penalty kill time, plays in all situations, You're one of your best two-way defensemen that you have in the NHL, and I think he is proving that again, and that he'll continue to be that for the foreseeable future. No points though, but he wasn't really standing out in either direction, good or bad. It was just a really solid two-way game.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't see it. That's good. That's just Pacioretty. Even his average games are pretty darn good. And that sounds like he just had an average game here. I'm looking on this.
Yeah.
I don't see Cody Glass in the lineup. Was Glass?
He was scratched.
Oh.
Yeah, Cody Glass got pulled out. He was scratched. And Keegan Colasar came in and played as the fourth line center.
Wow. So was it a healthy scratch, or do you know? Or?
As far as I know, it was a healthy scratch situation there.
That's not good.
Or let's see. Let me try and see if I can get a quick update there. Cody Glass, because he did get pulled out.
Maybe he came back with some COVID stuff or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but he was pulled out for last night's game, and Colasar came in. I'm not seeing any sort of injury talk or anything, so it does look like it was a healthy scratch.
Wow, I mean, he's young, but he was also a very high pick, and they have been they really honestly are putting a lot on them. Stevenson sure is filling in that role. Okay, I don't think you want Stevenson as your second line center for the foreseeable future, though.
No, not long term, definitely not.
They don't really have anybody to replace him right now, except for Glass. Glass is the guy. They didn't go out to get Peyton Krebs. I can't. He plays wing, doesn't he? Yeah, Peyton Krebs isn't a center. There's not too many guys in the coming up in the cupboards that are going to be able to play center there. They need Glass to step it up. Otherwise, they're going to have to look at free agency, and they're capped out. This is the problem with them.
Yeah, they've got no cap space, so it's not like they can go out and sign somebody. It would have to be a trade situation, I think, if they're gonna do something about that second line center, and they would have to send money out to be able to bring someone back in. So not the best situation you want to be in if you're Vegas, but they're making it work so far, and they're 3-0 to start the year.
Yep, they're going strong. Vegas always seems to find a way. That's a good trait to have. Your Boston Bruins knows all about that. They're one of those teams that's how you win championships, right? Champions find ways to win, no matter what the situations are. And the Boston Bruins have shown that. Pittsburgh Penguins are like that. How many times people say, how many times have we counted Pittsburgh out? And sure enough, they come out and win. I remember the one year they won the Cup, Washington destroyed them, honestly. They should not have won that series at all. And Pittsburgh, and they did, and they won. They found a way to win. So Vegas has that. So maybe they can, maybe they can get a cup before the window closes. Just imagine the window closing, and you weren't even a team that long ago.
Yeah.
And they're already looking like a team. The window is closing. Well, that's our games for this evening, but I want to ask John, how are you enjoying the hockey the first five? How is it feeling right now to get back into that commentating basement booth, and get back into these live games and watching all this fine action so far?
It's been incredible. I'm so happy to have hockey back, and even the games that aren't great games to watch that I've seen, like the Philly Buffalo game last night, or the Tampa Bay Chicago game opening night. It's just so good to have hockey back on TV and to be able to watch the games again and just have live action going on. And for the most part, yeah, there's been a few duds out there, but for the most part, I think the games have been good. And looking at the scores and looking at the highlights around the league, even of games that I didn't watch, I think for the most part, the action's been exciting and it's been good hockey and it's been really fun games. And I've been fortunate to see a few really good games as well. And I'm hoping that as the season goes along, you start to see those divisional rivalries really start to form, and the games start to get more heated and teams not to like each other. And it's just going to make the level of play go up and up and up as the season goes along. And then obviously the playoffs, there's just nothing like it. So I'm just really excited. I think it's been good hockey to start. And I'm hoping that it continues to stay good hockey as we go along all season long. And just so happy to have hockey back on television.
Oh, I'm sure that it's going to be great hockey. I mean, if Vancouver's really tired or loses to a team like Calgary, you don't think they're going to, next time Calgary comes back, they are going to be pissed. That's going to be a
Yeah, oh yeah.
freaking awesome game. And we're seeing that in all the games. I think as well, you can say this. I hope you can say that. This is the difference between, we were talking about Edmonton and Vancouver. The first thing I think of is Vancouver's going to be freaking pissed when Calgary comes back. Problem with with Edmonton is I'm not so sure about that with them. I don't see that same like pissed offness is the best way to put it. You know, you got kicked out after losing to Chicago like that. You would think Vancouver would come out fists a flying, right? Or sorry, Edmonton would come out fists a flying, and I'm not seeing it, so I'm a little concerned about Edmonton. That's kind of my view right now. Like you said with Montreal, how impressive is to see with all those moves being made, the team playing like a unit right now. It seems like they're already playing like a unit.
Yeah, we thought, if there was anything that was going to be an issue for the Canadians this year, it was going to be all of that roster turnover, and the issue was going to be, chemistry, and they haven't had any chemistry issues to start the season. So I'm 100% very impressed with the Canadians and what they've been able to do to start this year. And man, if they keep playing like this, look out. That's a team that might be finishing higher than people originally anticipated in that North Division this year.
Yeah, I mean, our question was that, and that's the reason why I had them fourth. But I don't know. The way they're looking now, they could definitely be higher. And that Canadian division's just all over the place. Anyways, boys and girls, this has been our full 42 for this. We are going to be going into another live after this with steelflyers.com, where we're going to be talking about the games tomorrow. John, thanks for joining me for this. I hope that I can be, I'm sure we'll be able to do this again someday. Maybe I can come, maybe, I don't know, I can maybe come on your show sometime, maybe. That would be cool.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And we got Joe. Thank you all in the chat room. We got Joe, the Professor Joe Rickett. Rickett, welcome, man. And Go Caps, the Go Caps friend. I don't know what his name is, but he always comes in all the time. We're going to be on here about another half an hour for 2 more hours, so come on. Thank you, John. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Go watch John tonight for the games.
Yep, Washington, Pittsburgh tonight. Thank you for having me on. It was awesome to be on your show, and this was a great time.
I loved it too. Take care, everybody. Half an hour. Have a great day. Lots of love to ya. Perfect.